Hello everyone, in this video we will see how I managed to remodel the spaces of an apartment that was heavily affected by its previous internal distribution. We are in Berlin, in the wonderful neighborhood of Kreuzberg, an area rich in energy and cultural mix located in the heart of the German capital. This apartment is part of a popular residential complex that is now experiences a new life thanks to the city's housing policies aimed at the recovery of this area. The strong point of the apartment is undoubtedly its relationship with the exterior, facing entirely south, where a beautiful kindergarten is located. To support this connection with the garden, we initially have a large uncovered area composed of the terrace located in the east side of the floor plan. In addition to the main terrace, we also have a second uncovered area consisting of this charming balcony also facing the kindergarten to the south of the building. Furthermore, always off the side, we find extensively glazed exterior walls.
Es hat dann 3 Fenster, also eigentlich sehr hell.
The issue lay in the division of the apartment. As you can see in the floor plan, the strengths of the apartment, namely the spacious, well-lit space on the south wall, were completely underutilized by 3 small rooms, truly modest in terms of space and functionality. The large central room was completely isolated from the generous windows, totally devoid of natural light. The kitchen was a stagnant, uninhabitable and isolated compartment. Even the entrance faced a service area completely secondary, with no fluid connection to the room, separated by a common entry door. As for the single bathroom, the bathtub was an unusual position, almost floating anonymously in a bathing area strangely accessible to both the occupants of the room and the right and anyone else visiting the house in the left. The use of the terrace was entirely for one of the 3 rooms, which thus appropriated the crucial feature of the entire apartment, without concessions to the noble area of the house, the living and the kitchen area. Given this situation, the owner had no choice but to completely demolish the current dividing walls in the apartment. Therefore, the goal of the project was to remodel the layout of the spaces on the ground floor, aiming to optimize the positive features of the environment and restore dignity to the living area. Additionally, I was to propose a renewed configuration with 2 bedrooms, more spacious and airy than the current 3. Specifically, the terrace should emancipate itself from its marginal connotation as a view of a single room to reclaim its vocation as an arrival point for the living area. Another key point of the project was to assign each interval of windowed wall to each of the 2 bedrooms. The arrangement of the facility shafts also provided reference points to take the first steps in the design process. Specifically, the north shaft, located near the living kitchen, clearly indicated that the set of the kitchen components should be positioned nearby. At the same time, the west shaft will retain its service function for the apartment's bathroom. Central was the easing of living flows with some certainties in mind. Therefore, from the northwest corner, the corridor should extend to the living kitchen, which should open onto the large terrace. And it is precisely from this living kitchen that I started. Initially, I conducted several experiments on the placement of kitchen components, keeping in mind that they should anchor to the existing shaft because the owner allowed to work on the floor. I imagined some alternative placement next to this shaft. During this phase, I noticed that a potential solution was to position the kitchen equipment set to the left on the shaft. This way, I could allocate the ample space illuminated by the terrace windows entirely to the living area. But this detail would mean relegating the kitchen to a service space, aligned with the corridor certainly, but unfairly far from the generous openings to the outside that the apartment had. I had also considered the option of positioning the kitchen component block transversely to the longitudinal axis of the apartment, but this will mean obstructing the main flow coming from the entrance and forcing it to divert its direction to reach the living room, thus increasing the corridor surface of the apartment. The only option left was to position the kitchen in northeast front of the apartment. In this position, natural light would flood the countertops, and situated along one wall, the kitchen would not affect the main flow from the entrance in any way. Thanks to this solution, the entire front part of the kitchen could be dedicated to the living room and dining table. And indeed, now the problem arose how to design these two areas, how to integrate them, and in which direction to orient them. Obviously, the first attempt was to consider a configuration where dining area and living room were positioned in sequence after the kitchen. However, this solution conflicted with the need to ensure access to the glass doors. In fact, the condominium regulation stipulated that the shape and the position of these doors could not be altered. Therefore, from the outset, it was necessary to ensure that this glazed corner was left free for the use of these doors, which the owner intended to keep constantly open during the summer. So nothing could be in the way, meaning positioned in the path of access of these doors. There could be no sofa, dividers or furniture in a range of use of that corner. This detail significantly reduced the possibility of installing a living room aligned directly with the kitchen, inevitably leading to thinking about alternatives. That's why the idea was to escape the structural alignment between the pillars and gain a small space in the living area designated for one of the bedrooms. Now, the kitchen, dining room and living room configuration seemed to be taking shape. However, the problem remained of how to manage the transition between these elements. We knew that there should be some further communication between these spaces, some kind of interaction, but certainly this interaction could not turn into an invasion of one space into another. Although integrated, the kitchen and living room needed to have boundaries, even if only suggested or subtle, that gave identity to these spaces and ensured the necessary separation of their functions. This is where this dividing wall between the two spaces come into play, whose position is certainly not random. Firstly, this wall rests in the same direction as the kitchen and, in a way, the future corridor, so it does not generate any functional conflict between the communicating spaces among which it stands as a normal continuation. Also, it has the function of delimiting the living area, giving it a third wall, thus ensuring a minimum of comfort and retreat for those who use this area. This wall has another peculiar feature. It is not solid but conceived as an element with large open areas. This choice is motivated by the desire to separate the spaces while at the same time maintaining the perception of a single space. Therefore, the idea is to make the wall float in space without connection to the floor. Additionally, we thought of using the side facing the living room as a support panel for the television, composed of a wall of wooden slats that allow light to pass through the opposite side of the wall. On the opposite side of this wall, we thought of placing shelves intended for the kitchen use, so that this element also serves as a multiplier of uses in this environment. So a strategic, multifunctional wall, both the generator and the limiter of the two spaces, but also a point of interaction between them. Remember that we are in an 87 apartment, so we cannot risk that the spaces are perceived as small or suffocating. Therefore, the wall separating the living room from the kitchen can only be a membran wall, a diaphragm that separates but at the same time lets one space be perceived by the other and lets light flow from the glazed corner toward the stove and the corridor. In fact, judge yourself the dynamics and the breadth given by the use of this semi-open wall, which has the gift to imparting lightness to the entire ensemble. The living area is practically complete, and now it seems that the configuration of the main corridor is creating itself, aligned entirely with the kitchen and the dividing wall. It is obvious that the furniture planning phase we will make the use of this part of the house as stimulating as possible. This will be very important because this will be the first part we encounter upon entering the apartment, and still the only one without light in a house that is optimally illuminated. Therefore, it will be essential that artificial lighting has a dedicated function in this corridor, perhaps, as in this case, designed as a longitudinal beam that directs attention directly to the living kitchen and provides the necessary lighting for this part of the house. To further animate this corridor, I thought of creating a double wall that, when unfolded, creates not only service spaces, but even spaces with a certain habitability. These spaces include an entrance hall with a bench, mirror, hanger, and all the accessories needed to welcome people entering the house, and a strategically positioned niche in front of the entrance, giving a distinctive representative touch to the domestic environment. It is evident that the sleeping area came to life on its own. We had planned that each bedroom would be designated for one of the two windowed intervals present of the south wall, and so it was. The available space allows us to place even two closets that anticipate the actual entry into the room, and at the request of the owner, we are able to create an additional closet between the two, a storage closet accessible from the corridor. Following this concept of order and distributive clarity, the bedroom was created. Also linked to the presence of a condominium shaft, it actually seems to be in the best position it could be. Once through the door, carefully hidden by the apartment entrance, we find ourselves in contact with the sinks, and our attention is drawn to the bathtub at the back of the bedroom. The resulting space allowed us obtain not only the bathtub, but also the shower and position the toilet in a separate room. We have come a long way, haven't we? Look at the configuration of the spaces before my project. Confusion and disorganization. Space waste were the only constants in the apartment. Look now, after our project, our rationality and precision permeate the spatial organization. Now, each detail were shaped with a few compositional strokes, aiming to minimize interferences and embrace a rationalist style that express timeless elegance. This approach to design not only creates a visually harmonious setting, but also contributes to optimizing the use of spaces, providing functionality without compromises. Organization and clarity are the basis of each choice, reflecting in the organized and welcoming appearance of each space. If you feel an affinity with my aesthetics and design principle, I am available to explore and discuss your upcoming project in detail. My passion is collaborate with you to turn ideas into reality, creating environment that reflects your unique vision and fully meet your needs and aspiration. I look forward to embarking in this creative journey with you. A warm embrace from your architect, Antonio Nuzzi.